Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And we begin tonight with the story of Officer Scott Patrick you haven't heard.
The Mendota Heights police officer was killed in the line of duty almost a year ago. Now, in an emotional interview, his widow reveals his private war against his own department. And Fox 9's Tom Lydon of the Fox 9 investigators here with the story. Tom, there was a lot going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about.
There was. And Officer Patrick's family knew they wanted to tell this story. At this point, they were waiting for the right time, and they believe that time is right now. Officer Patrick's widow, Michelle, believes what you will hear tonight is her husband's untold story, the truth about his life, and to some extent, she believes his death. As you will see, it is an undeniably difficult story for their family to tell. But she believes the struggle Officer Scott Patrick went through makes him even more of a hero.
He had always wanted to be a cop. The best part was getting in the squad and driving around.
That's where he felt comfortable.
That's where he was comfortable.
Out of the office, among the citizens.
It is one of the most powerful narratives we know. The death of a police officer in the line of duty. The killing of a cop whose job is to protect and serve us all. It is a familiar choreography of grief, pride, and remorse. But we like our hero stories to be uncomplicated. To the family of Officer Scott Patrick, his story is anything but simple.
He would disappear to the basement all the time and just watch TV. He wasn't really around us. I suppose he just didn't want to yell at us and keep letting his frustrations out.
His widow, Michelle, and eldest daughter, Erin, sat down with me recently to talk about the secrets Scott Patrick kept, even from his own family.
When he would come home from a bad day of office politics, what was it like to be around your husband?
It wasn't pleasant. He kind of, sometimes it seems like he was nitpicking and complaining about stuff at home, too. You know, it's just,
he knew he was getting very stressed, and he didn't want to be kind of absent from his family.
It's difficult to talk about this because you love your husband, right?
I do.
And you don't want to be perceived as speaking poorly of him.
Right.
But he wasn't happy at work, was he?
No, he wasn't.
Patrick was the union steward and had been locking horns with Mendota Heights Police Chief Michael Aschenbrenner. Unknown to the general public, 4 months before he was killed, Scott Patrick had filed a lawsuit against the City of Mendota Heights, claiming whistleblower harassment and workplace retaliation. His widow, Michelle, recently filed a motion to keep that lawsuit alive, even after her husband's death. But Michelle says it wasn't until Patrick was killed she found out his troubles went well beyond office politics.
I have come across some paperwork stuff and found out he was bullied at work.
Bullied?
Bullied. And it's really hard because I didn't understand beforehand.
He kept a lot of this from you then?
He kept a lot of it from me because he didn't want us to know. I knew that things were not right at work, but I just was leaving it up to him to let me know about it.
Come to find out, Officer Patrick had kept an impressive paper trail when it came to his troubles with the Mendota Heights Police Department. There are legal pads just filled with meticulous notes, documents on his suspension, conversations with the chief and the mayor. But Officer Patrick wasn't just taking notes. He was also making audio recordings.
In one recording, obtained by the Fox 9 investigators, Officer Patrick secretly tapes a meeting with Chief Aschenbrenner.
Speak freely. Okay. You're known for your knee-jerk responses. You just are. You think about it and decide what's right, yeah.
Did this all really begin with a picnic table?
Yeah.
According to the lawsuit, the trouble began 7 years ago, around the time of the Republican convention, when Officer Patrick saw two fellow officers moving a picnic table to City Hall from the old Lilydale Tennis Club, which was being demolished. Patrick reported what he considered to be a theft by city employees to Chief Aschenbrenner, who, according to the lawsuit, thought it wasn't theft, but a mistaken judgment.
When officers screw up, okay, when it's not dealt with, that's a disservice to those officers that do not screw up. You know? Absolutely. Well, it was dealt with. I guess I didn't think of it as theft. I thought of it as sheer stupidity. But I certainly could go back and deal with it as theft if you thought that was appropriate.
Instead, Patrick filed a complaint against the chief, alleging a pattern of questionable ethics and criminal violations.
Scott thought he was under the microscope.
He was under the microscope.
They were looking for him to screw up.
Oh, yeah.
The chief was.
Oh, yeah, anything and everything. You know, a minute late to work, you know, and then all of a sudden you're written up.
The tables would turn in January of 2012 when Chief Aschenbrenner suspended Patrick for a week after Patrick arrested a stranded motorist for disorderly conduct. A snowplow driver backed up Officer Patrick's story that the woman was angry and said Officer Patrick was dealing with her the best he could. Officer Patrick was also criticized for not having a squad car video activated that day. On appeal, a state mediator reduced the punishment from a week to just a written reprimand. Patrick documented what he saw as retaliation and payback. One day, his squad car was moved by an officer who parked it just inches away from another squad, keeping Patrick, who was admittedly overweight, from getting into his squad.
Did he tell you about the squad car story?
No, he did not.
There was also the time a label of rat poisoning was allegedly slipped into Officer Patrick's locker.
Did he tell you about the rat poison story?
No.
And he didn't tell his wife about the email, the one she discovered shortly before he was killed. The city offering him a settlement to leave the department.
They were pushing him out.
They were pushing him out.
And just days before he was killed, Scott Patrick was suspended once more for a day for failing to turn over the audio recordings he had made.
I don't know. You know where I'm coming from. Hopefully you're not gunning for me to try and get me fired. If I was gunning for you, you'd already know it. Well, probably.
There is something that makes this more than just the sad epitaph on an obviously already tragic story. Michelle Patrick believes the stress her husband was under of working in an allegedly hostile work environment in some small but very real way may have contributed to his killing.
He wasn't worried about going up to the car like all cops should be.
Look again at that video from the day Officer Patrick was killed. You'll notice a pronounced eye twitch. Michelle says her husband developed the nervous tic from stress. And in the final seconds of his life, when Officer Patrick gets out of his squad, he looks down, turning on his microphone, just as the gunman, Brian Fitch, opens fire.
He was worried about the after the fact of how is the city and the chief going to look at this report? How did I screw up? You know, even though I did everything right.
Hey, Chief Aschenbrenner, Tom Lydon here from Fox 9 News.
We reached out to Chief Aschenbrenner.
There's probably another side to this, and you probably have another side to this as well.
And to Mendota Heights Mayor Sandra Krebsbach. They both declined interviews, but in an email, the city's attorney said the reasons for disciplining Patrick are well-founded and supported. While the lawsuit was pending, Officer Patrick was tragically killed in the line of duty. Under Minnesota law, Officer Patrick's lawsuit ended with his death. Despite this rule of law and despite the lack of legal merit supporting the underlying claims, Ms. Patrick and the attorneys have chosen to continue to pursue this lawsuit.
I love you. We love you. Rest now. We'll take your watch from here.
Most of Patrick's fellow officers in the department, like those who spoke at his funeral, have rallied around the family, even taking his youngest daughter, Amy, to a father and daughter dance. There's now a bill before the legislature to rename Dodd Road as a memorial boulevard after Scott Patrick. But for those he left behind, there's also an undeniable anger.
Anytime I heard the chief talk, it's full of lies. He's just saying, coming up with whatever he could to say the best he could about Scott. But in reality, I feel like the chief is glad that Scott's gone. because now it's his thorn out of his side.
Those are the people that took my father away from me while he was still living.
Is it hard to see them?
Very much so. Especially when I know that they're just lying.
And maybe it's telling the name Brian Fitch, the man who actually killed Scott Patrick, was not mentioned during our interview. To some, a picnic table may sound like a petty issue to risk a career, but Michelle says her husband was a man who had a clear sense of right and wrong. And she has no doubt he died a hero, all the more for what he had to endure on the job.
You not only lost your husband in the line of duty, but it sounds like you feel like you lost 3 or 4 years of his life even before he was killed.
Exactly. I lost him long before. And I'm not sure if I would have ever gotten any of it back if he was still here.
That has to be difficult to say.
It's very difficult.
Earlier this month, the Dakota County judge ruled that Officer Patrick's whistleblower lawsuit could continue, with his widow, Michelle, acting as his surrogate. That lawsuit is slated to go to trial in July. In a couple weeks, Michelle, Aaron, and Amy Patrick will all be going to Washington, D.C. for the Peace Officers Memorial Day, a very large, poignant, moving event. Several members of the department are scheduled to go as well, including Chief Aschenbrenner. As you can imagine, guys, that might be a bit awkward.
Yes, to say the very least. And at the same time, the family tries to move on and in many ways can't.
No, I think they really believe, and I don't think it's just the lawsuit, guys. I mean, clearly there is a lawsuit going on. You can't ignore that. But I think in my conversation with her, we've talked a great deal. I think she really believes this is also about her husband's truth. And I think she believes she is the only person left that can really tell that truth.
And this is a lot to process for a widow and 2 young girls.
Absolutely.
The criminal case and then all of this that they didn't know about before at work.
And I want to make it clear, guys, you know, while their argument is with the chief and some of the administrators, they believe the other officers have been very supportive. He has lots of friends with the department, and they have really rallied around that family.
You saw some of the evidence there in your story.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Well, in response to the situation in Baltimore tonight, Black Lives Matter